We had left Nogales on foot at dawn. The heat of the Sonoran Desert quickly became unbearable, even at that early hour. We were a group of 7 people, all desperate to cross the border and leave behind the miseries of our lives. We trusted the coyote guiding us, a thin, sun-weathered man with scars on his hands and a gaze that always seemed lost in the distance. His name was Ignacio, but everyone called him El Tuerto because of the patch he wore over his right eye. Ignacio knew the paths well. You could tell by the confidence with which he walked among the rocks and cacti. He never showed doubt. While the group panted and struggled to keep up, he didn't even seem to sweat. But as night fell, his attitude changed. The man who had been so unshakable during the day began to look back frequently, as if he felt that someone or something was following us. He didn't say anything at first, but we all noticed. By the 3rd day, the heat was scorching, and our water supplies were beginning to run out. That afternoon, Ignacio gathered us before the sun completely disappeared. He spoke in a low voice, almost as if he were afraid someone else might overhear. "From here on, I don't want you making any noise," he warned. "The desert has ears." We didn't quite understand what he meant, but his words lingered in our minds. We thought he was talking about wild animals or the border patrol, but there was something in his tone that suggested it wasn't that. He looked at us each in the eye and then pointed toward the horizon. "If you see something that doesn't seem human, keep walking. Don't look. Don't respond." His words were unsettling, but we were too tired to ask for more details. We continued our journey in silence, our boots sinking into the soft sand. Night fell quickly, and the desert, which had been a blazing furnace during the day, transformed into a cold and desolate landscape. We were walking slowly when I heard the first howl. It was a low, guttural sound that echoed in the distance. I lifted my head and saw that some of my companions had also heard it. Ignacio didn't stop, but I could see his shoulders tense. The air felt heavy, almost as if we were being watched by something lurking in the shadows. The howl came again, this time closer, and then another answered from the opposite direction. The sound felt too strange to be a coyote. It was deep, almost human, and there was something about it that made my skin crawl. "What is that?" asked Jose, one of the younger boys in the group, his voice trembling. Ignacio didn't answer. He just quickened his pace, and we followed him, our boots crunching constantly on the sand. I tried to calm myself, convincing myself that it was just wild animals wandering the desert in search of food. But there was something else, something in the atmosphere that I couldn't ignore. The night seemed darker, the stars less bright. And then, in the distance, I saw it. On top of a dune, about 100 meters from where we were, a tall figure stood silhouetted against the night sky. At first, I thought it was a man, but something about its posture wasn't natural. It was hunched forward, as if it were about to drop to all fours. Its body was covered in dark, thick fur, and its eyes. God, its eyes glowed like 2 burning embers. I froze, unable to look away. My heart began to race, and the cold of the desert was no longer what made me tremble. It was fear, a primal terror that chilled me to the bone. That being wasn't human. The Nahual. I had heard stories in my village. The elders spoke of them, men who could transform into beasts at will, who walked among us undetected. But I always thought they were just tales to scare children. Yet, what I had in front of me was real. I knew it in the depths of my being. "Don't look at it," Ignacio shouted, but it was already too late. The creature dropped to all fours and began to move toward us. It didn't run, but it advanced within human speed, like a giant wolf gliding over the sand. Jose, the young boy who had spoken earlier, was the first to react. He tried to run but stumbled and fell to the ground. We stopped to help him, but before we could reach him, the beast was already upon him. What happened next still haunts me. The creature, with brutal strength, dragged him into the shadows. We heard his screams, but there was nothing we could do. Terror paralyzed us. Ignacio yelled at us to run, not to look back, and that's what we did. We ran without stopping, without speaking, with the sound of Jose's screams echoing in our ears. When we finally stopped, we were miles away from where it had all happened. El Tuerto made us promise that we wouldn't speak of what had occurred, that it was better to forget. But forgetting wasn't an option. Every time I close my eyes, I see those glowing red eyes in the darkness, hear the howl, and feel that at any moment, the Noel will come back for us.